Lundström. I'm a fashion designer. I'm an Indigenous ally, and I am the founder of thermacota.com with my daughters. It's an online outerwear company, and we sell and send beautiful outerwear all over the world. And that's been a really exciting venture. I'm also a bit of a big deal on TikTok. My handle is at LifeHacksLinda on TikTok, and I have 233,000 followers. So that's another thing that I do. I don't do it for a living. I do it for fun. And it's a way of, and I encourage everyone out there who has lived a life full of experiences and knowledge to pass it on to the next generation through TikTok. And that's basically what my TikTok channel is all about. So we sell Thermacota online, and our principle is waste not, want not. We're a zero waste company. Once we've cut a coat or a jacket like this, anything that's left over, we cut into smaller pieces and we make accessories. We have a line of pillows, and you can see all of this on thermacota.com. Waste not, want not, sustainability, all comes from my growing up in the North.
Oh, it's pretty cool. It's very interesting. I am one of your followers on TikTok. I see your videos. I recognize the background actually from. Yeah. Okay. So going into that field, and I think it's interesting. Your daughter's following your footsteps in terms of design. How do you?
Yes, my daughter. It was actually my daughter's idea to start Thermacota back in 2016. My one daughter lives and works in Miami and Los Angeles, half and half, and my other daughter lives and works in Dublin. So since 2016, we've been running this company remotely. We're hardly ever in the same place, except when we meet in Iceland to do our photo sessions. So we photograph mostly everything in Iceland, although we couldn't do that during the pandemic. But when the pandemic hit and everybody was working from home and working remotely, it was like no big deal. It's something that we've been doing for a couple of years already.
Right.
So I basically am the designer. I'm the person that takes an idea like, a jacket like this, got to have a hood. I'm the one that does the fine technical details, and I make the pattern so that we can, and we've made, hundreds of this particular style right here. And they're all custom made. So I take my basic pattern and then I alter it according to the measurements that the customer gives us online. So we give them a tutorial on how to take their measurements. And then I cut each garment one by one according to their measurements. And I would say about 80% of our customers choose the custom made option. The other 20% are able to pick from standard sizes, and it's a size chart, and if they correspond to their measurements, then they can go with a standard medium. But if they're maybe bigger on the bottom, or maybe they have really long arms, or whatever the situation is, then we it's a bespoke fit that we offer them, and everything is made right here in the studio.
That's amazing. I had worked in the past. I worked in health and safety in a mining company, and our PPE committee. That was one of the things as more and more women were getting involved in mining, just recognize different body shapes and sizes, and the need for, generally everything I have is extra large or XL tall, and most of that fits except for the sleeves. But you don't take account bust size and hips and all of that other thing, and I think I didn't even recognize that it was an option you had. So I think it's awesome.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just people and their body shapes are as unique as your fingerprint. There's no two that are alike, and I really believe that it's my job to fit my customer. It's not my customer's job to try and change their body to fit into some unrealistic ideal of what a perfect body shape should be. So, you ladies or you men, whoever you are that are ordering my things, I accept you the way you are. Just tell me your measurements and I'll make you a garment that fits.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. One of the things that I find fascinating about you, Linda, is I'll just back up a little bit. Every once in a while, Police Park, you know, I'll make a comment about how people in Toronto think that Barrie is Northern Ontario. And then one of my colleagues, you know, from James Bay or something will say, well, you're not either. You grew up.
Yeah, that's right.
North,
Yeah, like Saul Mamakwa.
right? Exactly, right? So, I mean, you grew up really in the North. And so how do you think growing up in the North influenced your career?
Oh gosh, well, a town of 250 people. We didn't have a TV, and I don't know, I think I was 14 before we had a TV, and all it was snow. Like, it was just, there was a weather channel that had a graphic on it, and we used to turn the TV on and have that graphic, so we would know if something actually came on. And so we didn't have that. We would go to Winnipeg once a year to get our teeth dealt with. And so that was always a big deal. Going to Winnipeg was, oh my God. And back then it was an 8-hour drive. And so when you grow up in a small town like that, it's not like you can just, Google something or we had a party line on our phone. So if it rang, too long and too short, it was for us. If it rang 3 short, it was for our neighbor. And sometimes you could pick it up and listen to what they were saying. So so technology, it makes me sound really old, but I think that Red Lake was even behind the times compared to, more urban places. So we were in a bit of a time warp. Growing up in the North gave me an appreciation of not wasting anything. Like, I don't remember us really having much garbage.
Right.
When we went to the garbage dump, it was to see the bears. Because they used to gather there, but we didn't really have a lot of garbage. There was no styrofoam things that you got your whatever in. Everything was loose. And I remember that my mom made everything. She made all of our clothes, and she loved ordering fabric, and she had a little Singer featherweight sewing machine. As a matter of fact, I have it over there. She would make things. And one time she ordered fabric to make drapes for our curtains for our house. And it was a really wild floral print. And she had a couple of yards left over, and she made me and my sisters each a little dress. So when we stood in front of the curtains, we disappeared. And she was just very resourceful like that. So I learned from my mom and dad a love of nature. We hunted, we fished, we picked blueberries. I mean, the fishing season opened, I think, May 24th, long weekend. We were out on that boat every single night because we had to fill up our deep freeze with pickerel and jackfish for the coming winter, for the next winter. And we had the biggest deep freeze that you could get brought in from Winnipeg or somewhere. And we filled that thing up with, so we were, May 24th, we were out fishing every night. Well, guess what was also happening then? Exams.
Oh.
Right. So consequently, when you're up till 2 o'clock in the morning cleaning pickerel, right, filleting them and getting them ready to go into the freezer. I did not do very well in school, in high school particularly. But my parents didn't place an importance on that. That was no big deal. It was more important to them that I could help them, skin that deer and butcher it and pluck the ducks and eviscerate them and fillet the pickerel. That was those skills. So working with our hands was something that was really encouraged and appreciated, and marks in school were not. And so that took the whole pressure off of me to do well in school. I graduated from high school with a 53% average because some teacher decided to give me 3 extra marks so that it would show as a pass. So growing up in a small place like that, we spent a lot of time outdoors. Like, in the dead of winter, in the middle of summer, when we had, no, it didn't get dark till 11 o'clock at night. And then it never got really dark. We were outside, and being outside in 20 below zero weather on a skidoo or a snow machine, if you're dressed properly, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. So my love of the outdoors and my love of outerwear. So when I came down to Toronto, I was so hot all the time. I wore very, very light clothing in the winter down here, and everybody's going, "Oh my God, we're freezing, we're freezing. Close the door, close the door. Let's watch TV for the next 3 months."
Right.
I didn't understand it. I thought, why is everybody so cold? It's not even cold down here, and that's when I decided to specialize in outerwear, and I had a vision for La Parka, which some of you will know. My most well-known product was La Parka, and it, if you wanted to see it, just go to a schoolyard at recess and see a teacher on yard duty, and chances are they would be wearing a La Parka.
My mother-in-law is a teacher. She owns one.
Oh yeah, okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was warm, it was beautiful, it was romantic looking. Men love women in La Parkas. And I created my own, I formulated my own colors based on the inspiration I got from the color of the sky at sunrise or sunset. So it was available in these soft, dusty pinks and blues and pale, pale, pale opal colors, and colors that glistened and shined and shone in the sun. And that was basically the reason for the growth of my company from 1986. I started my company here in Toronto in 1974, but in 1986, I launched La Parka, and it was a sales phenomena.
Linda, just on, you were talking about growing in the north in this community of 250 people. And then, I know it's not an overnight thing, but going from that to having La Parka around the world and people really interested, was that strange, or was it just easy to adapt to, or you know what I mean? Like going from such a small town and the party lines to the center of the attention for, the fashion community, and people just all knowing your name and recognizing your name and the things that you make. Was that a bit of a shock, or
no, not at all. In fact, I thought it took too long. It was taking too long. I was impatient. Over my life, I've had times when I have visualized something, and the visualization doesn't seem to come. It comes partly from within me, but it comes partly from somewhere outside of me, where I get this crystal clear vision of the future. And in the case of my company, I just followed that vision. I liked the way it looked and felt, and I just decided I was going to make that vision a reality. And the vision, one of the visions, was a state-of-the-art factory that I saw in my mind when I started my company in a 2-bedroom apartment. I had this vision of where it was going to eventually be, and I just worked towards making that vision a reality. It's almost like, I call it remembering the future.
Oh, cool.
As though it's already happened, and then you just have to have the benefit of being able to work towards that. So no, it didn't come as, and also very important, I had 2 very, very good role models in my mom and my dad. My dad had literally no education. He was very close to being illiterate. He could read. Writing was difficult for him, but he didn't really have any education, any formal education, not even grade 1. And he was an underground miner working in the gold mines in the Red Lake area. And he went from being an underground miner who was very well respected for his strength, his work ethic, his honesty, that he was given an opportunity to bid on a contract that was being bid on by companies from the south up in Red Lake for sinking a shaft. What he was a really good miner, and he understood mining, and he won the contract. Now, he was bidding against, mining engineers and geologists and big companies that had all the credentials. And there was my dad, who was an uneducated miner, and he built a company into a very successful mining contracting company. And at one point, he had 250 men working for him. So I grew up and I saw that, and I thought, oh, okay, that's what life is like. You start working really hard, and if you do a good job and you're honest, you'll get a chance to do something more. My mother loved sewing. She loved sewing machines. In our town of 250 people, she started a fabric center in our basement. She would order fabric from Eaton's catalog for, say, $2 a yard. She would pay the postage and everything like that to bring it up to our house, and she would sell it for $2 a yard. So my dad said to her, Olive, you're losing money. So my mom discovered that there were other places she could buy fabric other than Eaton's catalog that would be closer to wholesale prices. And she started this business. And in this little town of 250 people, she was the only fabric store for 150 miles. The closest one was in Kenora. We had women that were flying into Red Lake from Pikangikum, from the indigenous communities north of Red Lake. They were flying into Red Lake, taking a taxi to my mom's house to buy fabric. And of course, they didn't have a lot of money, but they had beautiful moccasins and mucklucks. So they would trade their beautiful beaded moccasins and mucklucks made out of home-tanned moose hide and deer hide, and they would exchange it for fabric. And so that was where I got introduced to the artistry and the skill of the First Nations people that amongst whom we lived, and even further up north in the area. And I got to feel really, really comfortable with these people. They would spend hours in our fabric store, and we would laugh and giggle, and we spoke a universal language, and that was the language of making things with our hands. They didn't understand English. We didn't understand their language, but we communicated. And it became a very important part of my mom's business to have custom-made moccasins and mucklucks. People would come and they would draw out their foot. Then my mom would give that to one of the women who was making these products. Oh, they also made beautiful gauntlets. So she'd make a pattern of their hand. And at one point, the whole house just, that smell of home-tanned moose hide and deer hide, that smell, that smoky smell. Yeah. Well, at one point, our whole house had that smell to it. It was just great. I mean, whenever I smell that smell, it transports me right back to Cochenour, to that fabric store with those Indigenous women. And it was the beginning of my my journey of advocating and being an Indigenous ally, because I saw those same people being sometimes badly treated out in the community, and in the church, and by the police, and so that's what motivated me to devote my life as an adult to making a difference and supporting initiatives. And as a result, in 2014, I started something called the Sewing Circle Project. And you can go to www.sewingcircle.org. And it was my way of sourcing fabric, machinery, thread, scissors, whatever, sewing machines, equipment for northern communities to be able to make things. Because I know that having access to fabrics, etc., is always a challenge. You don't want to be going off the plane in Thunder Bay and walking over to Walmart and buying it there. So I created this project in order for northern isolated communities. Now, when COVID hit, that kind of put a monkey wrench into it, but I've shipped goods and fabrics and everything to places as far as Pond Inlet at the north of Baffin Island, Masquachis in Alberta, Peawanuck, Deer Lake, Moose Factory. Where else? Oh, a whole bunch of places that I've sent whatever they requested, and that's just a service that I provide because I really understand when you have a need to make something and you don't have the right materials, how frustrating it can be. And so I just wanted to fill that gap. And it's been very, very satisfying for me, that sewing circle project. Did I answer your question? What was your question, Jamie?
Oh, we were talking about growing up in the north, and I just want to know, because you went from a small town to just being really well known, especially for La Parca, but in general, your name sort of becoming a household name, and then we just got into a really good conversation about other projects, and you talked well about the sewing circle project, and I was thinking about that in terms of like whatever your passion is. Like my son loves computers and technology, right, and so he'll scour to find like not the newest graphics card, but like the best bang for the buck, and tweak little things and print things on a 3D printer. And if you don't have access to that, you just can't follow your passion. So if your passion is fashion or design or woodworking, or whatever else, I when you were talking about the sewing project, that just sewing circle, sorry. I see it through those eyes of the thing that you love the most, and how do you get access to it in more remote communities, especially.
Yes, yes, yes. And I actually spent about 8 or 9 weeks, week-long stints at a place called Yavamattung. You know Yavamattung?
No, I don't. Where is that?
Fort Hope.
Okay.
I spent 1 week periods there at a time, setting up a sewing circle and teaching and having workshops, etc. And actually met some very, very talented people up there while I was there. There's one person up there, his name is Charlie, their name is Charlie Wabino, and an extremely talented, creative person. I also love hunting for things. But I wanted to say, okay, if you want to get into something like fashion or something, yeah, you can Google all kinds of things, but the most important thing is just roll up your sleeves, pick up a pair of scissors, and just start cutting and putting things. Just start working with your hands, and let your hands guide you to what you're supposed to make. And even if you don't have fabric, but use worn out bed sheets, or use paper, or just do whatever you can, and then send me an email to info at if you go to my sewingcircle.org, you'll see how to contact me, because maybe I can provide you with some fabric.
Yeah, what's I find interesting about that is I got interested in photography, and I bought like a Canon sort of starter, but not an instant camera, with the different lenses and stuff. And a friend of mine had been doing photography for a while, and I asked him, and he showed me a couple of things, and I feel like the best advice he gave me was, go take photos and then look at them and decide if you like them or not, and why do you like them and why don't you like them. And it seems a lot like what you were saying about, if you're into designing, and just start cutting and doing stuff, and it's the best way to understand more about that passion.
Yes, like I probably made 5. I might have made 5 first samples of this particular jacket. Here, can you see it?
Yes. Yeah.
Before everything was all fine-tuned, and what I do is I actually work directly with the material. This is shearling, so sheepskin, and it's really nice and warm. What I do is I sculpt the fabric, I mold the fabric, I create the look that I want. I cut it, and then I pin it together and everything like that. And then I make the pattern from that onto paper. Then I cut the garment and sew it together, and then I sketch it.
Oh.
Right. So a lot of people they think designing, and for some designers, this is how they work. They sketch, this and this, do this and this, and then they say, okay, I think I'm going to make that one, and then they go to make the pattern, and they realize that the skins aren't big enough for that style or something like that. So what I do is I work with the fabric or the material first, and then it kind of tells me what to make out of it or what can be made out of it. And then once it's done, then I sketch it.
I find that really interesting because, you know, we had talked earlier and I was saying, you know, you see fashion design on TV, you know, in a reality TV show, it's a character on TV, and typically they're just like drawing pictures and stuff. And so I think just, you know, you describing that sort of work helps put things together. Do you find that there's like, are there other ways about how you work that you maybe are misconceptions for people, or do you want to just sort of do things?
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter what your business is. You could be in the lumber business, you could be in the steel business, you could be in the food business. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It's important to identify waste. Okay? That's a very, very important principle of this business and of my previous business, Lundström Inc. Where is waste happening? Wasted time, wasted talent. You know, maybe there's somebody who has a talent that's not being used by the company. Space. Do you have a bigger space than you actually need? Is every square foot of space bringing in the rent that you're paying for that square foot of space? Is being utilized? Like if you look around here, every square foot is being fully utilized. I think that I got romanced by the idea of having a big space. At one point, the company was occupying 60,000 square feet, 60,000 square feet.
Right.
We had lots of space, and we reduced it to 40 square feet, and we were able to produce the same amount from, you know, 30% less. So, so it's really important to identify waste. Wasted space is a big one. What is taking up the space that you're paying for, but it's not generating any income?
Right.
Number 5 is material. Whether your material is wood or it's food or it's steel or it's anything.
Right.
What is it that's going in the garbage instead of going into what you're selling? And how can you take that waste and, without putting a lot of money in it, invest it into something that you can actually either use or sell? The other thing that could be wasted is inventory. Like inventory that's been sitting there doesn't even have a chance to sell because nobody knows it's there. It's under the table, and I'm guilty of this. I fall in love with my fabric. But if you've got inventory that's been sitting there for more than 2 years, then that's just occupying real estate that's not generating any income, which is why it was so fun when we came up with this apron and started using up the bits we had left over to make this apron. So does that answer your question? I think that those are business principles that actually trigger creativity for me. So let's say I've got a fabric and it's a fairly expensive fabric. So I want to make sure I make a style out of it where I'm using 100% of the fabric. So where I cut out the neck like this, what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with that piece? Say it looks like this. Say it looks like that.
Right.
I've got that piece. Well, what I did was, you want to see what I made from it?
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm going to show you. It's over here. I should have got it. Hang on a second. Ended up making this belt bag. Right? You can see there's the piece.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Right? Goes around like this. So those pieces were what was used to create this. Can you see it?
Yeah, yeah,
It's got a zipper here. That normally would have been waste. No way. What can I take your waste and create something to use the waste? In that particular case, it was this belt bag, or this bag here. I've also got somebody that's ordered a blanket that's like huge, that in red, and we're putting together the pieces right now for a big, huge blanket.
I think it's a great model like that, you know, think about what your waste is, because you know, for a lot of industry, you're paying to take away the waste, so it isn't just the right thing to do from an environmental perspective of, you know, making as much use as possible, but as well, like, from a business perspective, you know, like you can get the most value as possible, like, you know, as opposed to, you know, paying for it to go into the landfill, which affects the environment.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's waste all around you in every company, that just needs to have some creativity applied to it. I mean, I don't get me started on this, because I could just go on all day talking about how it's the way that you look at things. So instead, it's also important thing to identify your waste, but also identify your messes. Where are there messes in your company that you just keep stepping over every day? And like, there's some messes in this studio, but they're never the same messes. 2 days from now, I'll have different messes because the messes keep moving and moving along the line. But if you've got a mess that's been sitting there for a while, and people just keep stepping over it or walking around it, that's, first of all, could be a cause for an accident. And
Yeah.
second of all, it's taking up space that is not generating any revenue. And you know what? It affects people's morale. People don't like working and seeing a mess. And you know who really, really loved our approach to business were the people who were the sewing machine operators, the people who were the cutters, the bundlers, the people who didn't speak English.
Right.
Our approach to eliminating waste was something that they practice in their everyday lives. And for a person like a sewing machine operator to see waste that nothing is being done about, it's demoralizing.
Yeah.
Right? It's,
Yeah.
you know, because they're going home and they're looking for things on sale, and they're trying to economize in their family, and I'm trying to economize in my family. So why don't we economize more in our business? And I challenge anybody who is, even if you're just starting out, you're starting out in Etsy or whatever like that, just make sure that you keep your workspace organized. And this place may look messy, but I know where everything is.
Right. Yeah. It has that real sort of lived in like work environment, you know, where you